But this week, we're going to be making up our own hot takes, potentially, based on the new news that has came out about Dragon Ball. Because, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name right, Akio Ioku, who is the Dragon Ball, well, he's part of the Dragon Ball heads, whatever that is. Don't know exactly, but that's his title, apparently. He's a room head, whatever that is. He just came out and had an interview with some magazines, and it's been translated into English so we can find out what he was talking about. And he revealed that there is a new entry on the series in the making. He said that, it's been 5 years, and of course there's been ideas thrown around of what's coming next, and, Akira Toriyama himself has been making some designs and some concepts and that type of thing, throwing some ideas around. And he revealed that, yeah, there's something in the works. And he's hinted mainly towards a new series, which is good. Because his translated words were, a new entry on the series is in the making. So, that means more Dragon Ball Super? Or maybe they'll title it something else. But either way, it sounds like there's going to be a new show coming out. Whether that's a new series or just a new chapter in the current ongoing Super series.
Dragon Ball Super Hero the series.
Oh God. I want to get rid of Super altogether now. Just get rid of the name Super. I'm sick of saying Super now.
I can't believe Toriyama forgot that it was called Dragon Ball Super.
He's surrounded by too many yes men for that to be agreed on. Come on.
I can't believe they didn't remind him.
At this point, everyone who works with him must know he hasn't got the best of memories. Someone just say it, having Super twice in the title of a film might not be the best idea. Come on. But yeah, it's exciting. We're getting new stuff. And I think just based on the fact that this is what they did with Super, the show, is that we'll probably see the movies come first, or the new series, which means we'll get the Broly film reanimated and put into a show. They'll have a season instead of just a 1 hour 30 thing. It'll be spread out a bit more, just like the other previous films. And just because it's been announced that the superhero film is straight after the Broly film, that'll probably be the second thing to be reanimated. And then we'll go from there. Do we jump straight into the manga? Do they do some filler stuff first? Do they forget the manga altogether? That's all up in the air. Maybe we'll stop seeing things from the manga. Maybe they'll go in a completely opposite direction. Or maybe they'll just keep the characters from the manga but completely rework the story. Because Gohan and Piccolo have new forms, so it can't exactly be the same way as the manga.
Which is a bold retcon if they do.
Yeah, it is.
Especially because a lot of people have committed to the manga. And that would be a huge rework, arguably, if they just...
Potentially.
Because they have to, if they do change it, they have to say, this one is canon and this one is not. And imagine that they would... They can't just say, oh, they're both canon. You can't do that. You have to say one is canon and one is not.
Yeah.
Then you can't have two timelines. It's just otherwise it would just be cheap to say, oh, there were two timelines. Because I know there is multiple timelines, but that's just cheap. People won't accept that.
It does get a bit messy, but what I think you can compare it to, which people probably won't like this comparison, but the Walking Dead comics. I'm going to go with that. So the Walking Dead comics were out way before the Walking Dead TV show, but the TV show very quickly caught up. And because actors are actors, which, I mean, obviously anime is different to actual real-life performances, but because actors are actors and not just, you can just draw them to be however you want them to be, some actors dropped out, some actors, had to leave the show for whatever reasons or personal reasons, whatever else. And so they had to, be like, okay, we're following the comics slightly with the way things go, and we're still going to go forward. We're going to do the same things that in the comics, but obviously a couple of characters are switched around here and there. we add a few little things here because some characters aren't around or some characters act slightly differently in the show compared to the comics. But it's loosely based, we're still following. And when the new comics are released, we're going to carry on doing the same sort of show. We're bringing in the same new villains that they did. It's just going to be slightly different the way everything plays out, Because, like, in the show, Daryl's a character, but he's not in the comics at all. So, he's obviously a big part of the show. But this is Dragon Ball podcast anyway. So they can still do similar things. Yeah, they can still do similar things where, they follow the manga story arcs, but the characters are slightly different the way they act in the anime. Maybe a few characters are now showing up in these arcs that weren't apparent in the manga, that type of thing. Like Gohan and Piccolo especially, because if Gohan does go back to just, kind of chilling, Piccolo, now being super strong, can appear in these arcs where he wasn't in the manga, that type of thing. So, yeah, it does change things. The story can still continue as is, though, where, they still have the epic fights, or they just write Piccolo out for whatever reason, that type of thing. But, it's going to be loosely based, potentially, on the manga.
Yeah. So how long was Broly after Tournament Power? It's pretty much...
I think it's almost straight after. If anything, maybe a few months at most.
Right. So it was very shortly after, yeah. Because Frieza didn't really chill. He just went straight into Larry mode.
Yeah. So he regrouped his army and went straight for the attack. So however long that takes.
So, and as I understand it, I could be wrong. The Galactic Patrol arc is pretty much straight after the Tournament Power as well.
I think we should say that we haven't read the manga.
Yes.
We don't know what happens in the manga. We know a couple of things here and there, but we don't know timelines. So, yeah, we might be a bit wrong when talking about the manga specifically.
So please give this a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I know, I'm pretty confident it's not years or anything like that. And then Broly, and then Super Heero is very quickly after Broly.
Yeah. At most, like 4 to 5 months after the Broly fight.
So that would mean that we'd have access to Orange Piccolo and things like that very quickly into things like these future manga arcs that have started to take place.
Yeah. Especially just because we already know, just because of the Super Heero film, that they don't mention Moro, they don't mention Granola, they don't mention Gas, they don't mention Ultra Ego Vegeta. So it's like these are things that haven't been mentioned in either film. Yeah. So the arcs of the manga haven't happened, or they just, for whatever reason, especially against Broly, Vegeta just didn't use Ultra Ego, so he hasn't learned it at this point. And if this Super Heero film, well, it is just 4 to 5 months after Broly, he probably hasn't learned it yet, because let's face it, they haven't went through all those arcs in 4 to 5 months. Because also, Broly would be with them in those arcs, which he isn't. So, yeah.
Because basically, Broly, Goku immediately went to see Broly after the fight.
Yeah, and brought him back to train.
Immediately became friends with him, and he would have immediately went to Beerus' planet. They were immediately friends.
Yeah,
like they were immediately getting on. He was smiling and everything with him. Chila might not have trusted him, but Broly was friendly towards him.
Yeah,
and amiable towards him when he left. And you can tell in the film that Broly wants to be involved. He wants to fight. He just can't control his rage.
Yeah.
And Goku won't let him fight for that exact reason. But you can see Broly watching them, desperately wanting to be involved. So Broly wants to be part of that. So if he can fight and he can get involved, obviously he would be part of that in the manga.
Especially even if he couldn't control his anger, they would still get him involved in the fights just because they know how strong he is and they need a win. But he's not there.
If it was either the end of life as all we know it, or risk unleashing an angry Broly, I think they would risk unleashing an angry Broly.
Yeah,
I think it would be worth the risk.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I know more. I don't know I don't know everything about Moro, but I know he has very special powers that are obviously counterintuitive. I think he has draining powers. I think there's something about he can drain life or
Yeah,
something drains you.
I'm not fully
I
fleshed
don't
up.
know a great deal about it, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But um, again, it's obviously they just don't link. We know they don't link. We know that already, but it would show that they just wouldn't fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know that, and so it would require a retcon, and to immediately retcon would be bad. So one of them has to be canon. So one of them requires a retcon. It's as simple as that.
But there is one other thing that they could do. So, with the Resurrection F film and the Battle of Gods film, they obviously reanimated it for the anime. And what they could do here, if they really wanted to, which might annoy a lot of fans, yeah, but what they could do is follow the manga. So when they start this new series or whatever, they ignore the Broly film and they ignore the Resurrection, not Resurrection, ignore the superhero film, ignore both of them, follow the manga, do all of that stuff, and then have Frieza invade and be like, yes, it's taken me however long these manga chapters have taken. It's taken me a year or 2 years or whatever to regain my army. We're going to go on the attack. And we're going to have Broly introduced that way. But they change up the film slightly, like they kind of did with Resurrection F and Battle of Gods, where, this will be a pretty major change, to be honest. But we see Ultra Ego Vegeta trying to take on Broly, and he's still not strong enough. And they're still going to Gogeta, that would be cool. And it can kind of end the same way. And then, Goku brings them back to Beerus's planet, and they're training all together there. And we just continue with new stories from there. The only difference would be that, Goku and Vegeta are a lot stronger than they are in the Broly film. And that will also make Broly a hell of a lot stronger than he is as well, because he can keep up with the new forms. But everything else with the superhero film especially can kind of play out as is.
Because I don't think, I think it still would have required Gogeta to beat Broly regardless. Like, I think you needed Gogeta anyway. I think Gogeta is what's needed. So Gogeta is such a power bump that that's what's required regardless.
Yeah.
Like, Ultra Ego is a huge boost, but like Gogeta's Gogeta. It's just like Broly is just such a power ramp. He's just so much more powerful than Super Saiyan Blue that would Ultra Ego have been enough by itself?
It's just the fact that even still, you've got new characters like Granola, who's a new good guy, who would have been there as well to help out probably. You've had all these battles that Goku and Vegeta have been on since, and it's like, okay, Broly's as strong as all of these now, all of these massive villains that have came out, and Broly's just as strong. And it's like, yeah, now Gohan and Piccolo have these new forms, and all of a sudden, are they just as strong as all these villains? Because that is something they would need to reckon. There is no way Gohan can go in if they did all of the arcs of the manga first and say, oh, these Gammas are just as strong as Goku and Vegeta. No chance. You can't be saying that anymore. They would need to change that.
Also, Piccolo was in the Broly film, and they didn't use him.
Yeah.
Now, if he was Orange Piccolo and he is as strong as the Blues, they would not have left him behind. They
Definitely
would have
not.
took him with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, even if Gogeta was enough, they still would have took him with them as backup just in case.
Yeah, especially since they know Frieza's there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Because if he's as strong as the Blues, then they can basically just, you keep an eye on Frieza for us, even if you just have to keep him at a stalemate or whatever. Or because, like you said, we've discussed however strong Frieza is, whatever. But again, he would have to be there. They
Mm.
wouldn't just leave him on a mountain like they did. um, it would again be another change they would have to address. He
Yeah.
was in the film.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't leave him behind.
Mm.
He's a beast now.
Yeah, he is.
um, everybody is so much stronger, and everybody else needs to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
Then it needs to be a retcon.
Yeah.
Everything needs to change. If they're going to keep it, they either need to say they have two choices: either the manga is no longer canon, or there needs to be a retcon.
Yeah.
But
And
they can't just say either that or the films are not canon.
yeah, but no matter what they do at this point, they're going to upset some people. We can either
Yeah,
go back to the days of Dragon Ball Z where none of the films are canon anymore, and
yeah.
the Broly and the superhero film are standalone films, and we just never hear anything about them again. We forget all these new forms of Gohan and Piccolo. We forget Broly completely. Well, I still think they'll probably bring in Broly at least, but they would have to work him into the story a different way. It's just no matter what they do, either they ignore the manga and go down the film route and carry on the story from there, or they keep the manga, bring in Broly and Gohan and Piccolo later, and change up their stories because it doesn't make sense anymore, or they just keep the movie separate and say, not canon anymore, and then they follow the manga completely.
I mean, it was a hell of an opening weekend though for
It was,
the superhero.
yeah.
So I don't know if they'll say that the movies aren't canon.
Yeah, so they've got three choices, and no matter what they pick, really, it's gonna upset people. So I'm
I
really curious.
I think if they've committed to another series, I think they're gonna say that the manga's not canon.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think they're gonna do what they did at the start of Super, reanimate the two films and make them like officially canon, and then carry on the story from there. They'll probably. I still think they'll do all the stuff in the manga. I just think they'll rework it for the show for it to make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or they'll maybe they'll reset the manga.
I don't think they'll reset the manga. I think they'll probably get to a point in the manga where, if they do start releasing the show, they'll get to a point where they realize, oh, we need to make this make sense. And then in the manga, they'll kind of catch up to that point. So then when they reanimate it and get to that point, they can now follow the same path again and be like, okay, we've kind of made everything make sense now in the manga. So going forward, we can just continue.
Or they could just release them slower until it catches up.
Potentially, that's going to be a long time. That's going to be a long, long time. There is a lot of stuff that's been released in the manga, which would take years to catch up.
Yeah, there's a lot of chapters ahead, aren't they?
Yeah, and the manga keeps on going. It doesn't seem to have any sign to slow down or stop right now. So yeah, I think it will be. I don't think they can do that.
No.
Yeah.
They would, if they did, they would anger a lot of fans. Someone's going to be angry, but
Yeah.
it's their only choice. It's their only choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think best case.
It's not going to be canon. I think they have to say that the manga's not canon.
Yeah, I think
that's going to enrage a lot of people.
It is best case. I think is to follow the films, then go into the manga, but change up things and just kind of not change the manga, but make the manga make sense in future chapters that we haven't caught up to in the anime yet. So then they can reach a point and be like, okay, we can continue on from here because everything makes sense.
Because to be honest, a retcon is as good as saying it was never canon. There's not really a difference. That's how people view canon. That's how people view retcons. It's like, oh, so everything you've told me this so far is just rubbish. It's just a lie. That's how people view retcons. They're like, oh, so everything I believe so far was just not true. That's how people kind of view retcons for the most part. That's why they annoy people so much, because it's like, this is what I've always known the story as. You're changing my story.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people don't like stories. It's like you telling me that Gohan never turned Super Saiyan 2 against Cell. He actually did it for the first time, I don't know, in the Tournament of Power or something like that. Yeah. It's like, no, that's not how it happened. That you can't change that now. It's like that's sort of thing you can't do.
Yeah.
So that's why people don't like retcons. It's like, this is the story, this is how it should be.
Mm.
It's why everyone hates the, like, everyone got really angry when they messed with the whole Star Wars, when Disney took over Star Wars, and they said that everything that was before a certain time just isn't canon anymore.
Mm.
The fan base went mental.
Yeah.
They hated it. But and they still haven't forgiven them for it. And it's the same principle. It's like, why would you do stuff like that? And
Yeah.
it would be the same here. It's like, they have, like you said, there's so much manga out now.
Mm.
Imagine if they turned around and just said, that's not canon.
Yeah. It was kind of always going to happen. Like they kind of, if they were ever going to bring back the show again, this was always going to happen. There was always going to be things that they would want to change, or things that are not quite fine for the anime. As soon as they released the Broly film, as soon
I
as
was
that
going to say
happened,
the Broly film was probably the death knell for the manga when you think about it,
yeah.
because it doesn't exist in the manga.
Mhm.
It should have really, if they were going to keep it legit, they would have had to just go straight into the Galactic Patrol arc. And if they didn't
Yeah.
do that, then
And
that's it.
Simply because more people watch the anime and the films than read the manga, the anime takes priority. So whatever happens there is the canon truth. And the manga is, it can be its own story, but it can no longer be considered canon if the anime goes down a different route.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll just take one acknowledgement from Toriyama or somebody like that, and just one word, and that's it. That's all it takes.
That's all it is. Well, yeah, as soon as the anime is released, then people just need to accept, okay, this is it now. They don't even need to say anything, because the anime being released is enough for them to be like, oh, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Basically, it's just as soon as what the anime story is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
they can't have both canon at the same time. They can't do the films and the manga and both of them be canon. They need to change one or the other. So, yeah. One of them is getting the boots, and it's more than likely going to be the manga.
there's too much money in those two films.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen how much they both made, and Superhero made more than Broly.
Yeah, which is massive when you think about it.
Yeah,
especially for a film that doesn't feature Goku or Vegeta.
yeah, it was so popular.
Yeah.
It absolutely, like, it just made so much more. I was so surprised about it. Well, to be honest, actually, I wasn't. I thought I would be, but I just wasn't. Like, it was just so.
People love Dragon Ball, and everyone wants more Dragon Ball. It is the most well-known anime in the world. People can argue it might not be the best anime in the world, which is fine. You can argue that, but you can't say it's not the most well-known anime. Everyone knows Dragon Ball, and people want more.
Yeah.
No matter what, people just want more. They want the story to continue, and they've realized this, and it's been announced that they are doing more, which is great to hear.
Yeah, it's like everyone knows Goku. Everyone knows Goku, like they know Pikachu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, there's no release dates yet. We haven't been told that, oh yeah, by the end of the year we're going to have 3 series in the work planned already, or anything like that. It could still be another year or 2 yet before the show is actually ready to be released. But it's just good to know that they're actually working on something. That's the biggest news in years.
Yeah, it'll be a couple of years, yeah, I think, at least.
Well, we don't know, because he said that it's been 5 years since anything was released. They could have been working on the show for the past 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. They could have a lot of it already done, and this is just now the reveal because they're getting closer. Because you don't hear about a film before it's close to being done. You don't hear about a TV show before it's close to being done. They could have episodes already finished, but they haven't wrapped it up yet. They're not ready enough to release it, but they could be close.
It depends. I mean, the thing is, like, it depends if they've had different teams working on the films or not. They have done 2 films, like, when you think about it.
Yeah, but
they haven't been that far apart, really.
It's still been a few years, but either way, the show, the anime, could have been just ongoing in the background. Like, yep, we're still working out ideas, we're still doing this and that. We know we want to have a film though, so this is the main focus. The anime is like the sub focus where we can do bits and pieces in the downtime. There's no date when this needs to be done by. We can flesh things out, get everything right. So yeah, we can do that easy
I
enough.
suppose, yeah, no, there has been quite a no, there was quite a lot of time in between them, I suppose. Yeah. No, there has been breathing time between the two. But yeah, I suppose it depends how many if they've had a separate team working away from superhero, then potentially. And it depends how many episodes they would want to release
And
prior.
it also depends on the animation style that they want to do going forward as well. Do they want to keep it in super style? Do they want to go full 3D CGI style going forward for the show? Maybe. Who knows? I'm guessing they'll pick the lowest cost, which easiest to do.
I
And
I
yeah,
imagine they'll stick with superhero.
yeah, I can see the anime going
I don't
forward
think
being
they'll
full
go back.
CGI.
I can't see them going back.
Yeah, I can't see them going back either. Which again will
I
anger a
think
lot of people, but yeah. Yeah. I'm fine with it
adjust,
personally.
adjusting, getting used to Whis will take some doing for me
Uh,
because he's a boy.
yeah.
He was the one I think I could get used to. I could get used to it,
Hmm.
but I did not like how Whis was animated. I think that's going
Yeah.
to take a lot of getting used to for me. I'll
Fair
get
enough.
there. I'll get there. But for me, I had a big problem with
Hmm.
how Whis looked. There was something about him that I just did not like. But
Yeah.
that's a discussion for another day.
No, that is a
Um,
discussion for another
yeah,
day. Because I had no
yeah,
problems with Whis. I didn't even notice it, to be honest. But
yeah.
they've done animation changes throughout. OG Dragon Ball was one way. When it turned to Z, everything got a lot sharper. The animation was a lot more strong, I guess. The colors stood out a bit more compared to OG Dragon Ball. And then going from that to Super was a big change. Everything got a lot more colorful and a bit,
Brighter. Yeah,
yeah, almost slightly more cartoony in a way compared to Z. And then, of course, with the films, they start implementing the CGI, and then with Superhero, full CGI. So that's just how animation works. It changes over time. It follows the way that the trend is currently, and yeah, people just do prefer 3D nowadays, I guess. And yeah, I can see the future series being full CGI.
I think for me, the pinnacle Dragon Ball animation will always be Broly. I
Mm.
think.
Yeah, I think that was probably the best of both as well.
I think that I don't think anything will ever beat what they did with Broly. But obviously,
Yeah.
I will never expect. I'm not fool enough to ever expect that from a TV show. Like that was just too good.
Yeah,
Um, that
exactly.
was yeah, it was just unreal.
Plus, I think the CGI will be better for quick releases as
I
well.
was going
Just
to say it'll be easier to animate because they'll
yeah,
be able to just save the models and everything
yeah.
like that.
Whereas
Um,
the normal animation style is frame by frame drawings, which they won't need to do with CGI. They have models which they can use, which is a lot better for them. Yes, they'll need to change the facial style and that type of thing, but they're not animating it, I guess. They're just moving around what's already there, which makes it a lot easier for them and a lot quicker.
yeah, it's like manipulation rather than anything else,
Yeah,
which I
than
imagine
draw
will be a
from
lot
scratch
quicker.
each time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can expect that going forward, I think. But I'm fine with it personally. But
I'll
again,
get used to it.
yeah, a lot of
Dragon
people as well.
Ball is what I want, so
Yeah.
I'll take the trade off, I guess.
Yeah, I'm happy with anything, and I can't wait for this new series whenever it is. But I'm very curious, and I'm sure you are as well, to hear the comments of the viewers. So please leave some comments down below on what you think. What do you think is going to happen in this new series? Do you think we're going to follow the manga? Do you think we're going to follow the films? Do you think we're going to do something different altogether? Who knows? Leave some comments down below.